and helping Democrats win. For the very first time, welcome to the show, the one and only Tharon Johnson. What's going on, man? How you doing? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing great, Stephen A. Thank you so much for inviting me, man. And congratulations to your Knicks. Let's just get this
That's
off
right.
right away, man. Yeah, your Knicks did it. I saw your interviews. Right. I saw you celebrate. So congratulations, my brother.
Well, listen, I just want to say for the listeners out there, the viewers out there, we won't be talking about the Knicks because I pride myself in trying to be kind to my listener, to my guests, and we all know what we did to the Hawks. We know what we've done to the Detroit Pistons, Anton, but we didn't get a chance to do it. But I'm not going to rub it in. I'm going to be classy here. I'm not going to rub it in, guys. Let me get right to it because obviously, right. Tharon, you're a liberal. Anton's unapologetically conservative. Both y'all have stated the state of Black America right now in the.
So notice the framing off top. The framing off top, once again, like I said in the beginning, is binary. So Republican versus Democrat or Black versus the government. And the framing is going to go into who's responsible for the state of Black America or the decline in Black America.
United States. What would you say it is right now? I'll start with you, Tharon.
Stop and savor the strawberries. That's Daz.
If you're so profitable, why do you sell a course? Well, you know what? Here you go. I don't care. It's all free. I'm giving it away. We have like 6 different courses in here. The same strategies that made me a full-time trader. We have like.
I think the state of Black America right now, Stephen A., is one that's fluid, in your words, but it's something that we need to all be focused on because as we sit here right now in the United States of America, we know that Black unemployment is high, and we care about a lot of the issues that white, Hispanic, and Asian people care about. And here they are in this order. Number one, we want to be able to be safe. We have allowed the Republicans and others to say that we don't believe in law and order. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. Number two is that we want our children to have an opportunity, particularly our Black children, to have an opportunity to go to schools, whether it's private schools or public schools. But then when you get into healthcare, and we know the alarming rates of people with diabetes, people who have heart conditions, and even mental illness in Black people right now. Just studies have shown that young Black people right now are committing suicides at a higher rate than we've ever seen before. So I think the state of Black America right now is struggling. I think that some of us are prosperous, but some of us are actually not bringing enough people along with us. And then lastly, I think that we have to make sure that for those of us that have been blessed to have an opportunity to have a good paying job, to have a family structure, there's a lot of folks out here, particularly kids, depending on what zip code you're born in, will determine your actual pathway to success. A lot of folks in Atlanta and places around the country are being born below the poverty line. And if you don't have that family structure in place, access to quality paying jobs, and also healthcare, we as Black Americans, we got to do better.
Darren, before I get to Anton, who do you hold most culpable for the state of affairs involving Black America at this point in time?
I think it's a combination of a lot of different things, but it's a confluence of the lack of leadership on the federal level, starting with President Trump. And then I think the second part of it is that we've got to be more emboldened to hold the elected officials accountable. You can't just come in our communities and tell us things that we want to hear. We got to make sure that when we elect you, particularly Black women, who is the backbone of the Democratic Party, we got to make sure that we hold them accountable, and not just Democrats. We got to get into those rooms with Republicans too, and don't let them off the hook. So I think it's a confluence of a lack of leadership on the federal and state level, but also making sure we hold our Black leaders more accountable to make sure that they deliver on what they promised us.
So I think he told a half truth, in my opinion. White supremacy is the root of all of this. We didn't create these conditions for ourselves. Let's just be real. We didn't create these conditions for ourselves. Now, I do agree when he was saying that there's a confluence of blame to go around. Yes. So let's think about this though, right? If I create a garden, right? Let's say I create a garden, and in this garden, I purposely create tainted soil in this garden. I take this tainted soil and then I place good seeds in this tainted soil. That means the environment that I put these seeds to grow in is not conducive to these seeds to grow. Now, somehow, some way, these seeds sprout and they grow. What's produced is not something that's healthy though, because of the tainted soil, the poison in the soil, the badness in the soil. Now, not only is the soil bad, but I chopped down the plant. I abused the plant. The plant that grew out of this tainted soil, I abuse it. I denied this plant water. I denied this plant nutrients. I denied this plant the sustenance that it needs to continue to grow. So this plant is not producing what I need it to produce. And not only that, this plant has offspring, and the offspring is exhibiting similar behaviors. And over time, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And remember, I'm continuing as the one who has the power over this garden. I'm continuing to harm these plants and make the environment more and more not favorable to these plants producing what's actually needed. Now, is it the full fault of the plant, or is a good number of that blame going on the person who created this environment? Now, likening that to us, yes, the government created these conditions. The government created all of these conditions, but I hear what he's saying when we cannot hold elected officials accountable. But why can't we hold elected officials accountable? That has to be answered. We can't hold elected officials accountable. We can't hold elected officials accountable because we don't have the power to. We don't have the power to hold elected officials accountable. We don't have the power to make them be responsible or keep their word. Because if an elected official tells us to do something, or tells us they will do something for us and they don't do it, what are we going to do about it? And usually nothing but get mad. And we may or may not vote for that person again, depending on how they woo us. So ultimately, there is some culpability of Black people and the inappropriate behavior that Dr. Claude Anderson and other scholars, and we see on a regular basis. We just did the live stream last Monday on, Black coaching. Says the Black leadership industrial complex acting with the Democratic Party. Ultimately, it's our fault for following. Hey, look. I agree. That's all I'm saying is we're not the root of the problem, but we do have some culpability as human beings to keep going back and drawing water from this well, even though this water isn't quenching our thirst. So,
and Tom, when I would ask you the same question. What do you believe the state of Black America to be at this particular moment in time? Who do you hold most culpable for it?
Now, we already know.
Trying to feed your dog better, but stuck between overpriced fresh food and low quality kibble. Hi, I'm Dr.
I'm not sure exactly what he means by fluid. And I'm assuming that he defined that based off of the different parameters by which he spoke about the Black community. However, I think I agree with him, except for I would describe it as in shambles. Worse off than we've ever been, freer than we've ever been. And the fact that we're willing to blame Trump, although we've had decades of opportunities, Black cities, you look at some of the blackest cities in the United States of America, Memphis, for example, is in shambles and they needed Trump's help. And I think that there's a lack of accountability and victimhood. And as long as we continue to promote that it's somebody else's fault, I was looking at Juneteenth in Chicago, right? And you had over 7 people killed and 36 people shot. And while we were focusing on whether or not Asians and white people, whether it's Carmelo Anthony or Cyrus Carmack, is responsible and if they should go to jail or not, In every city across America, especially where predominantly Black people live, you don't have to kill each other, but there's drive-bys, and there were over 113 shell casings where 12 people were shot on Juneteenth itself. And so when I look at the state of the Black community, it has nothing to do with the political landscape. It has everything to do with self-accountability, regardless of whether or not you're picking the right curriculum, if you want to go to college or you want to go to community college. Healthcare, I don't think that we're concerned about it. Self-care, I don't think that we're concerned about it. And more importantly, I think that we're more concerned about self-care with regard to promoting ourselves and the culture that's the worst for us versus taking accountability for the state that we have ourselves in. We don't have to have children out of wedlock. We don't have to put ourselves at a disadvantage, and we don't have to have children in poverty. And we have more technological advantages as far as research and understanding of the past than we've ever had before. But for some reason, we're still worse off when we continue to vote the same way while requesting nothing from politicians and letting women lead us to the polls. And that is the result. You're seeing it transpire inside of the Black community.
All right, so, and Elizabeth, I agree. When you say this conversation is not looking to solve problems, it just talk, right? And so that's why I want to take it and make sure we can put some sense to it. Because unfortunately, I'm not familiar with Tharon Johnson, but I would imagine he's influential. Stephen A is influential. Anton is influential, especially to our young people. So making sure we got some balance out there. So looking at what Anton is saying, yes, we can't blame the conditions of Black people on Donald Trump, but Donald Trump is the president of the United States of America. And the United States of America are the people who put this garden together, who created this environment, this tainted environment. And now you are complaining about what you produced. You're complaining about the product, but also Anton. So one of the funny things about this is Anton Daniels is a part of what's wrong with Black America. He doesn't think that though. He's a part of what's wrong with Black America. Anton plays the Sambo role. Anton plays the tap dancing, WB frog. I'm gonna live on my knees. I'm gonna say all the talking points that white America likes to hear so they can grease my pockets. Anton has been accused of being paid off to talk the way he talks. Now, not only is he living on his knees for white America, you know, when the Corey Holcomb situation happened, we found out a lot about Anton and even a lot of the rhetoric that Anton has, right? What, like me and one of my friends was having this conversation this past weekend. If he's the ultra Christian, I do everything right, I'm holier than thou, but he always, you know, he got caught up in the scandal with what allegedly he was messing around with the women, but out of his mouth, he's the dude's like, I always keep bad chicks around me. Really? And you married? So Anton is once again a part of what's wrong with Black America. He doesn't think he is, but he is a part of what's wrong with Black America. And so Anton will represent a class of Black Americans who sign up to sell out. That's a problem. And so that's what's interesting about this conversation though, right? Is in real time, we're seeing what's wrong with Black America. Going back to Elizabeth's first comment is, for one, this conversation is fruitless. What are we going to be able to take from this conversation to be able to take back into our regular lives and use it to move forward as a people, outside of just trying to debate to see who wins? What do us as the audience get out of this rather than just talking points? Another thing for Anton, remember, Anton is a parrot. I'm not that familiar with Tharon, but right off top, I know Tharon he seems to have that ultra liberal view, and he would probably have the view that people would say is the ultimate victim view. Anton has the view of white America. He's the parrot. I can guarantee you he's never critically thought about most of the talking points that he has. And you're going to be able to see it as this conversation goes. You just heard this conversation now. All the problems of Black America is on us. It's not a governmental problem. It's not a systematic. White supremacy doesn't exist. White supremacy didn't create these conditions. Black people just woke up one day and decided we weren't gonna do right, and here we are. Really, Anton? Now, I would be cool with both Tharon and Anton if they could give an honest critique and, you know, talk about the governmental part and the part that we play in, like Child of God say, continuing to follow these crazy leaders and crazy people off of a cliff. Yeah, he is from there. So you saying, I have heard a lot of people say that Anton is not a Black American. I would venture farther to say Anton is not a man. Anton is a knee liver. Anton will do whatever for white America. And remember, this is the dude who talks as if he's a business savant. I mean, shout out to anybody who come up, right? But you know, he made his money here on YouTube. But he talks as if he's the stout businessman. He started off as the wear my hug dude. Then he started grifting so he can get white people on this side and become a pet for them. And you're right, Elizabeth. He has no understanding of our problems. But let's continue. Please hit that like button, y'all.
The things that I got to ask you about, Anton, is that, you know, so many times we see things from an historical perspective. We see the Civil Rights Act of 1964. We see the Voting Rights Act of 1965. We see policy that has been implemented to address the unfairness and the inequity that exists within our system. I do understand when people look at it in this day and age and say, look, we're a lot better off than we were before. Let's stop acting like that. But there are, I think one of the things that concerns me about folks with the conservative tilt is that there's this notion, sometimes people act like it never existed. There was never a problem. These things never needed to be addressed. It's basically just about pulling yourself by your own bootstraps and going from there without really addressing the fact that the inequity that exists in our system, it's always been something that the Black community has had to battle against. And sometimes you hear conservatives talk and some of them sound like, yo, that's not true at all. What do you say to that?
That's the sound of an American oil company hard at work. Want to be a part of it? Listen up.
Hello.
I don't see any inequities. I was born in the blackest large city in the United States of America. Everybody knows that. Detroit, Michigan, still here, born and raised, contribute to my community. And there's just some very basic fundamentals that we lack that has nothing to do with the history of this country, right? We're in 2026 and there's people that come over here with absolutely nothing. There's Africans, right? Illegal and legal immigrants that have come into this country and done exceptionally well, right? And so when I start to have this conversation, there's really two different types of Black people.
But before he go further, first of all, there's a minority of these populations who come over here and do excellent. Remember, like let's be real, right? How many of us, let's say you are middle class, let's say you're a middle class earner. How many middle class earners in America can just get up and just move to another country? Like you could just drop everything and just move to another country, right? A lot of these people who come to these countries, who come to America and are able to do good, they are political refugees, but a lot of times they're people who had careers, were doing good in their own countries. Okay, on the other end, you have the people from the Hispanic countries who are able to come into America, sneak into America. But remember, they get the lowest wage stuff, and the way they operate and all these things here, right? But they still don't come with the same programming and things that we have. They're still not targeted the same way we are. Are they targeted? Yes, but they're still not targeted the same way we are. Where's the historical inequities, right? So Anton, but remember, Anton dodged this question as well. And you're right, Child of God, they both are compromised, but he dodged this, right? Because we're talking about, basically Anton is saying nothing that happened in the Jim Crow era or slavery applies to today. Well, tell that to all the wealth that was accumulated. Tell that to all the people who accumulated the wealth and the power and the privilege from what happened yesterday. Because people act like history doesn't affect today. So you mean tell me what Anton did in the past didn't affect his pockets today? So you telling me that the historical legacy of slavery and the the laws that were put in place did not affect the positions of white Americans. All right, well, let's just talk about some of these laws, because that's what Stephen A. asked. Stephen A. specifically asked about laws, but he stepped around that. But we're talking about the slave codes. We're talking about the Fugitive Slave Act. We're talking about Dred Scott. We're talking about vagrancy laws, apprenticeship laws, segregation mandates, anti-miscegenation laws, disenfranchisement, the convict leasing systems, all those different laws and things that existed. Code Noir. Once again, Anton Daniels is proving that he is a part of the problem. Well, actually, all three of these gentlemen are proving why they are part of the problems with Black America. Yes, at this point, Black America's problem is we can't get out of our own way. The programming has worked. We really believe the delusion and the foolishness that be coming out of our mouth, a lot of us who are crazy. Yeah, Anton only focuses, well, Anton does realize, but Anton likes to focus. He's a sensationalist. He likes to focus on the section of Black people who are not doing good, so he can continue to parrot those narratives of white people. What's going on, BG? So let's continue.
Right, and I'm not going to use the word to describe the other type of Black people, but there's people that continue to hold on to the victim Olympics, and I've never experienced slavery in my 44 years on this earth. And so my expectation for my father was I had a greater calling for my life, and that's what I leaned into. I leaned into my religious beliefs. I leaned into my community. I leaned into my school. I leaned into taking accountability. I leaned into working hard, 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. And as long as you are doing what you're supposed to do, there are no limits. And so I don't see the inequity, right? That is a word that is used in order to make an excuse for why you're not doing what you're supposed to do. We don't have any excuse for why we go into prison. We don't have any excuse for why we continue to commit crimes. And we don't have any excuse for why we continue to not enroll in the curriculums that's going to pay us the most money. Every time you go into a college campus, everybody is in business, marketing, and communications. Nobody is going in any STEM fields. And every time I see a woman go into anything school related, it's always to be a nurse. I don't understand.
So you telling me the majority of whites, Asians, Hispanics go into STEM fields? Are we crazy? Are you mean to tell me the majority of these other populations going to STEM field? Why are the STEM fields trying to recruit as hard as they are? What he likes to do is take a minority and try to blow it up, right? Because we're talking about choice, career choices, all these different things, personal choices. Also, we know Black people are 14 to 15% of the population, 40 to 42 million. How many white people are in the United States? How many white people in the United States? It says it's approximately 203 million people who identify as white in America, or 191 million when excluding those of Hispanic and Latino. But add in all of them, 203 million white people. All right. How many Black people in the United States? It says 49.2 million Black people in the United States. So by number, we're not talking percentage because people like to focus on percentage. By number, we know more white people kill more white people than Black people kill Black people because there's more of them. Just by number, that's just common sense. If it's more of us and we all live in a violent society, because violence, he talks as if violence is only secluded to Black communities. Now, one of the problems that Black America has, or two of the problems, is, for one, we don't control the media. So whenever something happens in the Black community, it gets blown up and sensationalized in the media. And two, we don't know how to keep our business in-house. We got to tell everybody our business. Like I saw a video today on TikTok. Some girl was like, a Black person was killed in the same manner by other Black people as Noah Wells. And she was like, see, I told y'all about the black on black crime, and she wanted to sensationalize it. We can handle our business without telling everybody our business. But because we don't control the narratives, and because when we do have a chance to control the narratives, we tell everything. Of course, people are going to be able to look at the worst of us because that's all we promote. We never promote the best of us. And Anton is a part of those who don't promote the best of us. Well, I mean, look here. And once again, a Black American television news. Anton is a great sensationalist for white supremacists, right?